My name is Mike. I'm 28. And until 3 months ago, I thought I had the perfect family. My parents, Robert and Linda, and my sister Emily seemed like they genuinely loved me unconditionally. Growing up, our house was the gathering place. Every Sunday dinner, every holiday was a celebration. Dad would grill while Mom made her famous potato salad. Emily and I would play video games or argue about movies. Family is everything. That's what Mom would always say, watching us roughhouse in the living room. When I graduated college with a computer science degree, they threw me a party. When I got my first tech job making $75,000, Dad took me out for an expensive steak dinner. "I'm so proud of you, son. You're going to do amazing things." That's what he said. The real game changer came 2 years ago when Grandma passed away. She had been quietly investing in real estate for decades, and when the will was read, everyone was shocked. She left me $2.3 million, everything she had accumulated. The family's reaction seemed genuine. Mom cried happy tears. She always said you reminded her of Grandpa. So responsible, so thoughtful. She knew you'd take care of everyone. That's what Mom told me, sobbing and hugging me. Dad shook his head in amazement. "Mike, this is life-changing money." Emily punched my arm playfully. "My big brother, the millionaire. But you're still buying dinner tonight, right?" We all laughed. They were so supportive about the inheritance, never asking for anything, never making me feel guilty. "Son, that money is yours. Grandma chose you because she trusted your judgment," Dad told me. I felt so grateful to have a family that wasn't jealous or greedy. 6 months later, when I got promoted to senior developer and had to relocate to Seattle, leaving Denver felt like tearing my heart out. "We're going to miss you so much. Promise you'll call every day," Emily said, tears in her eyes. "This is your chance to shine. We'll be here supporting you," Mom said. And for the first 6 months in Seattle, they kept that promise. Every single day, one of them would call. Mom checking if I was eating enough. Dad asking about work projects. Emily gossiping about college. "Tell us everything. We want to hear about your new life," they'd say. I'd spend hours describing my apartment, my coworkers, the coffee shops I'd discovered. They hung on every word. "You sound so happy. We're living vicariously through your adventures," Mom would say. It felt like unconditional love spanning 1,200 miles. But then my healthcare project started consuming my life. 12-hour days became 14-hour days. My daily calls became every other day, then twice a week. "We understand, honey. Work comes first. We're proud of how dedicated you are," Mom said when I apologized. Their understanding made me feel worse about the reduced contact. 3 weeks ago, everything changed. The project got canceled without warning. Budget cuts. 20 months of work, gone overnight. I was devastated, but suddenly had 2 weeks of unexpected free time. Why don't I surprise the family? I thought. I didn't call ahead. I drove 18 hours straight from Seattle to Denver, arriving at 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday. I pulled into the driveway of my childhood home, that familiar white house with blue shutters and Mom's rose garden. I used my old key and quietly opened the front door. "Mom, I'm home," I called out, expecting to hear her excited scream. Instead, I heard voices from the kitchen. Mom was talking to Emily. "But shouldn't she be in class? Honestly, can't keep pretending much longer," I heard Mom say, her voice tired, resentful. "I know, but we're so close now. Just a few more months, and this whole charade can be over," Emily replied. I froze. "Charade? What charade?" I quietly set down my bag and crept closer, staying hidden behind the living room wall. "The inheritance money should be accessible soon. Once we get him to sign those trust documents Dad's been working on," Emily continued, and my blood ran cold. Trust documents? Nobody had mentioned trust documents. "Your father's contact confirmed it. If Mike signs the family trust papers, we can access the funds for family emergencies. And once it's in the trust," Mom said matter-of-factly, "we can vote him out as the primary beneficiary." Emily finished, laughing. "God, I can't wait to stop acting like I care about his boring job stories. Do you know how hard it is to sound interested in database optimization?" The room started spinning. 28 years, and they've been acting. "Remember when he called about that hiking trail? I had to bite my tongue to keep from screaming," Mom said with irritation. "At least you don't have to hear about his dating disasters." 45 minutes about some coffee shop girl," Emily groaned. "They were mocking me, making fun of stories I shared because I thought they cared. I still can't believe Grandma left everything to him, just because he was the responsible grandson. What about us? We took care of her for 5 years while he played computer games," Emily said bitterly. "That money belongs to this family. We've sacrificed so much, pretending to be the loving family he thinks we are," Mom said firmly. "At least Dad's been smart about building the legal case, documenting Mike's questionable financial decisions, proving he needs family oversight," Emily said. "Moving to Seattle was perfect. We can argue he's isolated, making poor decisions without guidance. The psychological evaluation Dad arranged should confirm he's not stable enough to manage that money." Mom agreed. "Psychological evaluation?" My hands started shaking. Dr. Morrison is completely on board. Dad's been feeding him information about Mike's concerning behaviors for months. Emily said. They'd been building a psychological profile to have me declared mentally incompetent, while I thought they were being supportive. I heard Dad's car in the driveway and my heart started pounding. I pressed myself against the wall, barely breathing. Perfect timing. We were discussing the timeline, Mom called as Dad entered. The law firm confirmed they can expedite the trust setup. But we need Mike's signature by next Friday, or we wait another month, Dad announced. How do we get him here without raising suspicion? Emily asked. Family emergency seems too obvious. We need something that requires his physical presence but doesn't invite questions, Dad replied. What about a memorial service? It's been 2 years since your mother died. We could say we're finally having a proper memorial, and we need him here to help plan it, Mom suggested. Brilliant. Emotional manipulation, using his grief. He'll drop everything and drive here immediately, Dad said. They were planning to use my dead grandparents' memory to manipulate me. The psychological evaluation is scheduled for next week. Dr. Morrison has been very accommodating. He'll write whatever report we need, Dad continued. What kind of assessment? Mom asked. Nothing too dramatic. Mild depression, anxiety, adjustment disorder from the move. Enough to suggest Mike needs family oversight of major financial decisions, Dad explained. But he's never shown signs of any of that, Emily protested. Doesn't matter. Morrison will backdate session notes showing Mike's been struggling for months. The social isolation, work pressure, inability to maintain relationships, it all builds a case, Dad said dismissively. Dad had been taking notes on every phone call where I'd mentioned work stress or dating frustrations, building evidence against me. What about his job? Emily asked. We're not proving he's incompetent to work. Just that he's psychologically vulnerable to poor financial decisions without family guidance, Dad clarified. And once the money's in the trust? Mom pressed. Simple. The trust names the three of us as co-trustees with Mike as primary beneficiary. But we have voting control over all major financial decisions, Dad said, shuffling papers. Meaning? Emily asked. Mike gets a reasonable monthly allowance from his own inheritance. We control the investments, major expenditures, and we can modify the trust terms as needed, Dad explained. Can we reduce his allowance? Mom asked. Absolutely. If we document continued concerning behaviors, we can justify reducing his access for his own protection, Dad replied. They were planning to turn me into a financial dependent using my own money. How long can we maintain this? Emily asked. Indefinitely. Once the trust is established and the psychological evaluation is filed, Mike will have almost no legal recourse. If he challenges it, he'll look like a paranoid family member trying to steal from relatives who are protecting him, Dad replied. What if he gets suspicious? Mom asked. We'll gaslight him. Make him question his perceptions. Mike, we're just trying to help. You've been so stressed, maybe you're not thinking clearly. Classic manipulation, Dad said matter-of-factly. And if that doesn't work? Emily pressed. There was a long pause. Then Dad's voice, colder than I'd ever heard. Then we moved to plan B. Which is? Mom asked quietly. Mike's been depressed about the canceled project, isolated in a new city, struggling with work pressure. Sometimes people make irreversible decisions. Very tragic. Very believable, Dad said. My blood turned to ice. The life insurance policy I took out on him 6 months ago would more than compensate. $5 million, plus his current inheritance. No family trust needed, Dad continued. They were discussing my murder like a backup business plan. I somehow stayed hidden until they dispersed, then quietly left and drove to the nearest hotel. Sitting in that sterile room, I felt like my entire reality had collapsed. 28 years of memories, suddenly recontextualized as elaborate lies. But I'm a cybersecurity specialist. I spend my days thinking like criminals, anticipating attacks, building defenses. My family had just revealed themselves as threats. Dad had never been good with technology. He used variations of the same password. Broncos 1977, his favorite team and birth year. That night, I accessed his email, phone backups, laptop files, everything. What I found made the conversation I'd overheard seem minor. There were hundreds of emails between my parents and Emily, going back over 2 years, documenting their hatred and evolving plans. The timestamps showed they'd started planning within months of Grandma's death. Mike called again today. Another hour of boring job updates. I actually fell asleep during his debugging story. How much longer do we keep this up? Mom had written 18 months ago. At least he doesn't visit often. I can barely stand being in the same room anymore. The fake enthusiasm is exhausting, Emily had replied. Just think about the money. $230 million makes all this acting worth it, Dad had written. There were entire threads mocking my personality, appearance, career, dating life. Things I'd shared in confidence had been turned into entertainment. Mike's going on another hiking date, Emily had written, with a screenshot of my Instagram. Bet this one runs away after hearing his cryptocurrency theories too. Poor girl has no idea what she's in for, Mom replied with laughing emojis. At least his terrible dating record supports our instability case, Dad added. But the most damaging evidence was in a folder labeled Project Family Trust. Detailed legal documents, psychological reports that hadn't been written yet, and communication with Dr. Morris. I need you to evaluate my son for financial competency. He's showing concerning signs of depression and poor judgment since relocating, Dad had written. I'd be happy to help. Based on what you've described, he would benefit from family oversight, Morrison replied. The background information was a character assassination disguised as psychological history. Dad had documented every stress, relationship failure, work complaint, and reframed it all as mental instability. Subject has difficulty maintaining relationships. Shows obsessive work, focus, excluding social connections. Exhibits financial anxiety and isolation since relocating. One section read. But then, I found the folder that made my stomach drop. Insurance and contingencies. Inside was a life insurance policy on me for $5 million, with my parents and Emily as beneficiaries. There were also emails with Tony Carruthers, my mom's brother, who'd spent 10 years in prison for assault and been released 8 months ago. Mike's work project is unstable. He might come home unexpectedly. We might need your specialized assistance, Dad had written. I can handle complications. Young tech workers get robbed all the time. Expensive equipment. Sometimes robberies go wrong, Tony replied. The insurance should cover any immediate expenses. Clean, simple, believable, Dad responded. My own family had been planning my death like a business transaction. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I planned their destruction with the same thoroughness they'd used to plan mine. First, I secured my assets. I called my lawyer in Seattle and explained the situation. Within hours, we'd moved my inheritance into an irrevocable trust with protections that made it impossible for anyone else to access. Second, I contacted a private investigator specializing in financial crimes and provided all the evidence I'd gathered. Third, I made an appointment with the FBI. The life insurance fraud and murder conspiracy elevated this beyond state-level crimes. But I wasn't done. They wanted psychological games. I was about to show them real psychological warfare. I called home that evening. Mike, Mom answered with fake enthusiasm. Sweetheart, what a wonderful surprise. Hi, Mom, I said, letting my voice sound tired and defeated. I've been having a really rough couple of days. Oh no, what's wrong? The false concern was nauseating. My project got canceled completely. 20 months of work, just gone. And I've been feeling really disconnected lately. Depressed, I guess, I said. I could hear her excitement. I was giving them everything for their psychological evaluation. Oh, honey, that's terrible. You sound so stressed. I am. I keep thinking about Grandma and Granddad, and I feel so alone in Seattle. Sometimes I wonder if I made a mistake moving away from family. I continued. You should come home. We miss you so much, she said immediately. Actually, I was thinking the same thing. I've been feeling like I need guidance from people I trust. Maybe we could do something to honor Granddad's memory. I feel like I never properly grieved. I said, wow. Hook, line, and sinker. That's a beautiful idea. Your father and Emily were just talking about a memorial service. I'd really appreciate that. And I've been thinking about financial planning too. Having all this money feels overwhelming, especially when I'm feeling scattered mentally. I said, I want. There was a pause. She was probably trying not to scream with excitement. Of course, honey. We've been thinking about that too. There are trust options that might give you peace of mind. That sounds perfect. I really need guidance from people who understand my best interests, I replied. Come home this weekend. We'll take care of everything, she urged. I'll drive down Friday night. I love you, Mom, I said. We love you too, sweetheart, she replied. The words felt like poison, but I needed them to believe I was falling for their trap. Friday evening, I pulled into my childhood driveway for what I knew would be the last time. The family was waiting with Academy Award-worthy performances. Mikey, Emily squealed, running to hug me. I've missed you so much. You look tired. For just a moment, muscle memory almost made me hug her back normally. This was my little sister who I'd taught to ride a bike. But then I remembered. Can't wait to stop acting like I care about his boring stories. I missed you too, I said, letting my voice sound fragile. It's been really hard being alone. Dad appeared with his signature shoulder pat. Son, you look exhausted. Family time is exactly what you need. During dinner, they laid their trap with surgical precision. We've been talking about a family trust. Something to honor Grandma's memory and keep our family financially secure, Dad said casually. That sounds really smart. I've been worried about handling everything alone, especially lately. I nodded. Emily leaned forward with fake concern. Really? I thought you had everything figured out. Honestly, I've been struggling. Work stress, being alone in a new city, some questionable financial decisions. I think I'm in over my head, I admitted. Mom and Dad exchanged the quickest glance. What kind of questionable decisions? Mom asked gently. Expensive apartment I can't afford, going out too much to cope with loneliness, Risky investments that didn't pan out. I think I need help making better choices. I sighed. That's exactly why family oversight is important. We can help guide you, Mom said, squeezing my hand. I'd really appreciate that. Lately, I feel like I can't trust my own judgment. I said. We've already consulted with a lawyer. Just preliminary forms to get the trust established, Dad said, producing documents. I read through them carefully, noting how they were worded. By signing, I'd be placing my inheritance under family oversight, giving them complete control. This looks comprehensive. You guys really thought of everything. We just want to protect you, Dad said. I picked up the pen, then paused. Actually, I should have my lawyer review this first. It's a lot of money. Dad's smile tightened imperceptibly. Son, this is family business. You don't need outside lawyers. I know you have my best interests at heart, but my financial advisor says to get independent counsel for major decisions, especially when I'm feeling mentally scattered. I said, why? Mike, Emily said carefully, you said you trusted us. I do trust you. That's why I want to make sure I'm making good choices. I don't want my current mental state to cause problems for the family, I replied. The room went quiet. I could see them recalculating. Of course. Take all the time you need, Mom finally said with forced sweetness. But I caught the concerned look between her and Dad. Their timeline was slipping. Perfect. Saturday morning, I announced I was visiting Grandma and Granddad's graves. I need quiet time to think about the trust and process my feelings. That's so thoughtful. Take all the time you need, Mom said. What I actually did was drive to the FBI field office, where Agent Sarah Mitchell was waiting. You've compiled impressive evidence. Financial fraud, conspiracy, insurance fraud, potential murder for hire. We can build a strong case, she said, reviewing my files. I want them all arrested. What? I said firmly. Tony Carruthers is our priority. The murder conspiracy gives us grounds for immediate arrests. But we need evidence of active planning, not just intent, she explained. She handed me a small recording device. Wear this tonight. Try to get them talking about specifics, timelines, methods, their relationship with Carruthers. That evening we gathered ostensibly to plan Granddad's memorial, but I had other plans. I've been thinking about what we discussed yesterday. The trust, my financial situation, everything. I said. And? Dad prompted. I realized something that's been bothering me. What happens to all this money if something happens to me? I've been having some really dark thoughts lately. I said. The temperature shifted. They were trying to look concerned rather than hopeful. Don't talk like that, son, Dad said carefully. But, hypothetically, if something happened, the trust would protect family assets. Actually, I've been wondering if everyone would be better off without me. Between my work insurance and the inheritance, you guys would be set for life, I said. Emily gasped dramatically. Mike, no. We need you. But practically speaking, wouldn't it solve everyone's problems? You wouldn't have to worry about my poor decisions anymore, I continued. Dad leaned forward. Mike, we would never want anything to happen to you. I know, but I've been feeling so worthless. Like, maybe I'm just a burden. I said. You're not a burden, Mom said, but I caught her glance at Dad. Sometimes I think about just ending it all. It would be simpler. I said. Dead silence. The recording device captured every breath. If you're having thoughts like that, maybe we should talk to someone professional. I know a psychologist, Dad said slowly. Dr. Morrison? I asked innocently. Dad froze. How do you know that name? You mentioned him before. Said he helped family friends. I replied. Right, what? Yes, Dr. Morrison specializes in depression and financial anxiety. Maybe I should see him before making major decisions. I suggested. Actually, Dad said, I think establishing the trust might help your mental state. Give you peace of mind that your family would be protected no matter what. There it was, connecting my supposed suicidal thoughts to signing their documents. You know what? You're right. Let's sign everything tomorrow. I trust you completely. The relief was palpable. Can I ask something personal? Have you ever thought about what you'd do if I wasn't around? Practically speaking? Dangerous pause. We try not to think about that, Mom said carefully. But you must have considered it, with the money involved. Well, Dad said slowly, we'd probably pay off the house, maybe travel. What about immediately? The logistics if something sudden happened? Emily shifted uncomfortably. Mike, why are we talking about this? I just want to know my family would be okay. That there wouldn't be complications. I said. Dad cleared his throat. There shouldn't be complications. Everything would be handled properly. By who? Another pause. We know people who can handle difficult situations discreetly. What kind of people? Just people who understand how to manage things when families are grieving, Mom said carefully. Like Uncle Tony? Deafening silence. I had them. Tony's been through difficult times, Dad finally said, but He understands family loyalty. And he'd help if you needed it. Tony would do anything for family. Emily said quietly. Perfect. Ah. Murder conspiracy, on tape. Sunday morning dawned clear. Perfect weather for destroying their lives. I came downstairs to find them in performance mode. Mom had made breakfast. Emily was chattering about memorial flowers. Dad was reviewing trust documents. I'm ready to sign everything, I announced. Wonderful. The lawyer will meet us at 2 p.m. Mom beamed. At 1:45 p.m., just as we were preparing to leave, there was a sharp knock. I'll get it, I said, my heart pounding. I opened the door to Agent Sarah Mitchell, flanked by 4 FBI agents in tactical vests. Mike Thompson? She said loudly. Yes, I replied, stepping aside. We have a warrant to arrest the occupants. I led them to the living room where my family sat frozen. Robert Thompson, Linda Thompson, Emily Thompson. Agent Mitchell announced, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit financial fraud, insurance fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder. Chaos erupted. What? This is insane, Mom screamed. There must be some mistake, Dad stammered. Murder? Mike, tell them this is crazy. Emily's voice cracked. Actually, I said, looking at each of them, I know exactly what you were planning. Mom's face went white. You, what? I heard your conversation Tuesday afternoon. All of it. The trust scam, the psychological evaluation, the inheritance theft, the murder plan with Uncle Tony. I said calmly. Dad collapsed onto the couch. You were here Tuesday? I was hiding behind the couch for 3 hours, listening to you plan my destruction. Did you really think I was that naive? I said. Mike. Emily cried, please, you don't understand. I understand that you've been pretending to love me for 28 years while planning to steal my inheritance and kill me as backup. I replied. As handcuffs clicked into place, Mom made one last attempt. We do love you, she insisted, tears streaming. No, I said quietly. You love my money. You tolerated me. The trials took place over the following year. Dr. Morrison lost his license and got 3 years for falsifying evaluations. The law firm was investigated and shut down. Uncle Tony, faced with murder conspiracy evidence, took a plea deal and testified against my family. He got 15 years. Dad was sentenced to 12 years for financial fraud and conspiracy to commit murder. Mom got 10 years. Emily got 6 years. The local news covered it extensively. Perfect family's dark secret. Murder plot for inheritance money. DUI. But the real justice wasn't the prison sentences. During trials, all their secrets came out. The psychological abuse, the manipulation, the years of fake performances. The community learned exactly who they really were. Their friends abandoned them. Mom's school fired her. Dad's firm not only terminated him, but sued for reputation damage. Emily's college expelled her, and her friends deleted her from social media. They lost everything. Freedom, reputations, community, futures. As for me, I moved back to Seattle and started a non-profit helping victims of family financial abuse. I also started Real Therapy, which helped me process 28 years of emotional manipulation. It took time, but I learned to trust people again. 6 months after the trials, I met Sarah, a teacher who had no idea about my story. We started dating slowly, carefully, but genuinely. When I told her what happened, she cried. I can't imagine. Your own family. They weren't my family, I replied. Family is supposed to love you for who you are, not what you can give them. Sarah and I got married last month. Small ceremony with real friends who love us genuinely. Sometimes people ask if I miss my family or feel guilty. The answer is no. They made their choices. They chose money over love, manipulation over honesty. They weren't victims of my revenge. They were victims of their own greed. I gave them 28 years of genuine love, and they gave me 28 years of lies. But destroying them didn't destroy me. It freed me. I'm no longer the naive, approval-seeking son. I learned that real family isn't about blood. It's about choice, honesty, and genuine care. Last week, I got a letter from Emily. She's out on parole and wanted to rebuild our relationship. She claims she's changed, that prison taught her the value of family. I read the letter twice, then shredded it. Some people can't be trusted with second chances. Some relationships can't be rebuilt because they were never real. Sarah and I are expecting our first child in spring. A daughter. She'll grow up knowing she's loved for exactly who she is. The house I grew up in was demolished. It's now a small apartment complex. I'm glad it's gone. Yeah, that house was full of lies masquerading as love. My real home is wherever Sarah is, built on foundations of honesty. People ask if I'm happy. Yes. Genuinely, authentically, completely happy. Not because my life is perfect, but because it's real. And after 28 years of living in someone else's performance, reality, even when difficult, is the most beautiful thing in the world.